Today, on the Barricade Guard Show, I'm going to bring you along on my journey into emergency preparedness and introduce some key concepts to keep in mind as you discern how to best provide for those who have been entrusted to your care. When my family and I moved into our current home just over a decade ago, we loved the peace and quiet of the rural setting. One thing we didn't love, however, were the power outages that occurred much more frequently than any place we had ever lived before. And to make it even worse, they often occurred at the most inconvenient times, like when we lost power while trying to get food ready so that we could host Thanksgiving at our house the next day. For the first few outages, we were caught off guard and unprepared. We had no plans and the wrong supplies to navigate the situation. The hours, or sometimes couple of days, without electricity felt like we were spending 40 days in the wilderness. But eventually, we realized things we could do and supplies we could have on hand that made the outages much more manageable. It's still inconvenient, but we know what to do to make it work, and we go about executing the plan much more calmly and methodically. But to put this in perspective, these outages typically last several hours, or maybe as long as a day or two. And this is a localized outage, meaning that if we really needed to, we could still drive to the store or a family member's house not too far away and have access to food, water, and all of the other creature comforts that we're used to. But what if the power wasn't coming back on in a day or two? Or what if the outage was affecting every home and business in a 100-mile radius, which might be the case in a grid down or SHTF event? All of a sudden, things become a bit more serious. What if the food and water and supplies that we have on hand need to last our family of 8 for a week, a month, or even longer? For a long time, I was content to brush those questions aside. I mean, after all, this is the 21st century. We can get almost anything we want delivered to our door within hours. We'll never have to deal with things like supply chain shortages, worldwide disease, and proxy wars between the world superpowers. Those are just things we learn about in history books, right? That's what I was happy to think, and then the past few years happened. For me, it was a rude awakening that the systems I take for granted might be a bit more fragile than I was obliviously happy to assume. And as the father of a growing family, the stakes were getting higher. As I've mentioned in previous videos, if you are a parent, then you are responsible for the spiritual and physical health of the family entrusted to your care. And just like you take other reasonable steps to provide for the needs of your family on a day-to-day basis, it is reasonable to consider how you would provide for them if our modern systems were unavailable for an indefinite amount of time. So I decided to start thinking through what I would need in order to take care of my family for a prolonged period of time without the electrical grid, retail stores, or other public services. And as I started down this path, I quickly realized a few things. First, supplies are expensive for a number of reasons. You need a lot of supplies to care for a lot of people, and you need redundancy. One of the first rules you'll hear when you start researching emergency preparedness is that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And for critically important elements, a 3rd, 4th, or 5th backup isn't a bad idea. Tools, gadgets, clothing, and boots all wear out and break eventually, which leads to the next reason that supplies are expensive. Durable, high-quality supplies are more expensive than disposable, low-quality ones. If 2 is 1 and 1 is none, what do you think is going to hold up better over time when your life depends on it? The generic brand $5 special from the big box retail store, or a trusted brand that has been time-tested and recommended by people who have been in this space for a long time? The $10 saw that you picked up at Walmart might be fine for cutting an occasional branch here or there, but if you need to stockpile kindling and firewood so that your family can cook and eat, then you'd much rather have a silky saw that will last longer and cut more efficiently. I'm not saying to buy brand names just so you can flex in front of your prepper friends, but when the consensus among reviewers and other people in the prepping community is that a particular brand or product is reliable and well built, it probably has that reputation for a reason. When I was trying to decide what to buy, I poured through hours and hours of reviews on YouTube, Amazon, and blog sites. And while there are always a variety of opinions on which choice is the best, I can at least say that the recommendations that I'll give you are researched and educated suggestions, not just knockoffs that Amazon or I are getting paid to promote. Another thing that I realized when beginning my preparedness journey was that there are a variety of strategies that you can take, with some being basic and inexpensive but prone to failure, others being elaborate and reliable but expensive, and everything in between. The approaches that I'll recommend will try to dial in that sweet spot to get the most reliable plan that we can for the best value, and that is best suited for those who are responsible for caring not just for themselves, but for their families as well. So for the purposes of this channel, and to be consistent with the mission and purpose of the Barricade Guard, I've chosen to focus my attention and limited resources on some specific strategies and items that I think provide a reasonable plan to account for the basic physical needs of families. Sure, if you have unlimited time, money, and space, then by all means, feel free to build a homestead, an EMP-proof solar farm, and an impenetrable underground bunker with an escape tunnel to your armored overlanding vehicles. But if you're looking for relatively simple strategies to provide for your family's basic needs on a budget, then the tips I'm going to give you through the upcoming series of videos might be a good place to start. You can start small by addressing the most important needs first, and then over time, you can add to your preps and build out more robust systems and supplies. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to discuss water, food, operational security, medical and hygiene, energy and lighting, communication and community, and whether bugging out versus bugging in is the best strategy. And with each thing that I suggest, I'll explain why I chose that particular item or strategy so that you can decide if it is the best choice for your family or if you might have additional considerations because of a different living situation or health and security needs. I know that sounds like a long list to consider and can feel overwhelming, but rather than giving up just because you don't know where to start, stick with me and I'll try to walk you through step by step at least the basic things to consider. And when it comes to the most basic and essential need for survival, water is the first place to start. You might have John Wick's armory and all of the rechargeable flashlights in the world, but if you don't have clean water to drink, you're not going to last long. So join me next time when we take a look at the options and considerations for making sure your family will have clean water to drink, even if the tap stops running. Where are you in your emergency preparedness journey? Are you a seasoned survivalist or are you just getting started? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone that might benefit from it as well. It really does help out me and the channel. Don't forget to follow the Barricade Guard on Facebook, X, and Instagram. The links are in the show notes below. And until next time, fortify your soul, body, and family.